Hello, hello, hello. Hey, ladies. Welcome into today's session. I am Shiro, and this channel is called Lost in Our 40s. Here we talk about things that affect women and more on how to manage everyday life. So, welcome. Today's topic is about uncovering past trauma. Yeah, it's something that affected me, and so I just thought that maybe there are a lot of women out there who are not aware that they might have some past trauma in their lives that is affecting how they show up and what they do on the day to day. So, a topic today with some pointers on how I addressed it myself, and hopefully, you find something there that is useful that you can use as well. So, first, before we talk about how to address it, we need to discuss what is trauma. Outside of what we talk about every day, that something traumatized us when we were in the queue for so long or things like that. The actual meaning of trauma is when you have something that happens to you, and it is not that thing happening to you that is the trauma. It is the impact that that thing has on your life. This is in The Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Maté. He is a trauma specialist. This is what he deals in mostly. And he describes it exactly that way. He says that there are two types of trauma. There's the trauma with a big T and the trauma with a small t, meaning that the big T trauma are these things that, like Batman's parents passing away when he was young. I can't remember if he was there when they died or what it is that happened, but this had such an impact on him from a very young age, and this changed him. So that kind of trauma is the trauma with a big T. This one that is more or less self-evident. But there is trauma with a small t. This can be things like bullying. If you're bullied in school, or these items that do not fit the frame of having lived through, like Gabor Maté himself lived through some very hard. He was originally from Hungary, if I'm not wrong. So he lived through a time that was really, really desperate in that country. And even though he was very young, he was one, I think, at the time when he had to be shipped out to other countries to live with other people. It had such an impact on his life that has affected him throughout, and that he has been dealing with. So this other smaller T trauma is the one that probably goes under the radar more often than not, because it's easy to recognize these big things. There was war, something really big happened. But things like trauma are not really things that even as a society, there are things like, bullying, are not things that we as a society put too much emphasis on. And there are just the other example he gives in his book is like constant harsh words from a loving parent. So something like that is probably something that one might not click as having been a traumatic effect in their lives. But the point is not the thing that happened, but the impact it had on you. And what he says is that the effect of trauma is to separate you from yourself. Separating you from yourself is what the impact of trauma is what trauma is. Yeah. So what we're discussing today is, how do you know? How is it possible to tell that there is some past trauma in your life? And especially when it comes to, it is both the big and the small t, let me put it that way, because it is possible for the mind to even block the big ones. It is possible that you are not aware. And I'm not saying that everyone has gone through trauma, probably not. But even Gabor Maté says that it is much more common than society plays heed. It has a much more present impact on many people's lives than we as a society look into. So here are a couple of points. And the thing is not so much to fear it, but just look at these. See these things. If there are elements here that can be useful to you, that you think you want to dive into further, then carry on, then you can do so. So the first one is recognizing the blocks that turn up in your life. There could be things there's something that you've been wanting to do, but you're just blocked. You're unable to move forward, and you can't really tell why. You can't tell what it is that is making you not move. This for me was one of the major ones. I was There was an activity. There was something that I felt called to within my heart, something that I really wanted to venture into, but I just couldn't move. I was completely unable to move. So in trying to work out what the reason for this block was, and touch into what I did, but this was one of the doors that showed me that there was more to look into. Yeah, and related to that is patterns in your behavior. They say that the things that we need to learn from keep recurring in our lives, that we create the situations that lead us into the path of the thing that you're meant to learn from. And if you didn't learn from it last time, it comes back and you shall be in that class. You shall repeat that class until the time when finally the lesson has been learned by you. It's not always easy to see, because we have main character energy often the times. We are living our lives looking ahead. We don't always notice that this thing that has happened now is the same as the thing that happened the other time. In my case, it was easier to see through relationships, the kind of relationship patterns that I was getting into. And I love relationships, even the ones that don't work, because of, I think it's such a good school ground for learning more about myself. Being in a relationship enables me to see that, here's a pattern. Here's something that I did last time. Then I can question myself. Why is this the route that I often get into? Then that can lead into further introspection. And from that, I learn more about me and the things that I'm doing. And more importantly, trying to uncover what motivates me to take those routes that I do take. Related to this, but from a bit of a distance, is noting the things that you dislike in others. This has more to do with bringing out your shadow self. We spoke about that in one of the podcast episodes earlier, and then maybe we'll talk about it a little more. But likely, the things that you don't like in other people are often things that are showing up somewhere within yourself that you do not necessarily recognize. It could be that you do not recognize it. It could be a negative attribute that you yourself have, or it could be something that you long for, something that person has that you would also want to have. So noticing these things, when you have a reaction to somebody, it's good to sit back and try to uncover within yourself what the source of that reaction is. Again, not always easy to see, not always visible, but one of the ways that I try to do this myself is to have this list of whys. The why, then the why, then the why, then the why. So can I think of an example? I can't think of a real example right off the top of my head. But let's say someone says, in fact, I do have an example from just yesterday, but it wasn't really me. It was from someone. It was a situation where I was in, where someone was irritated. I'll give you the full scoop. A friend of mine and I were out. We were at a festival, and it's a colorful place. There was a lot going on. It was really great. It was just about to start, and we were engaged in chatter. We were deep diving in our conversation, and we were quite fine. Then a lady who wasn't so far from us told us that we're making a lot of noise, and she put it in a very unfriendly way. She seemed unhappy. Yeah. So from my perspective, my immediate reaction was to know that this has absolutely nothing to do with me. So, told her as much. But I'm now thinking of taking it from her perspective. What is it about us chattering that she found irritating? Could it be that she doesn't have a close friend with whom to sit around and chit-chat with? Could it be that she's never been allowed to engage herself? You get what I mean? Could it be, there could be very, very many different kinds of things. Could it be, the list can be endless, but then this would be her activity to carry on with herself. to try to understand what is it about this situation or these ladies or the festival or whatever it is. What is it here that has put me in this space to react the way that I'm reacting? That at times can help us understand if it was that maybe in childhood she was never allowed to go to festivals or things like that. That might be something to do. I'm sure I have many examples from my own life. It's just that none comes to mind right now, which is why that one did, because it happened just yesterday. Yeah. All right. So in this, from the example I've just given, it's whenever you're triggered by anything, which is not what I try to do myself. In this example of the many whys, if I were her in that situation, what I would ask myself is, why do these women having a conversation, or why does this situation affect me? And then you might say, because they're loud. Then you say, what is it about their being loud? Why is it that their being loud is an issue to me? Then it might be that you were never allowed to make noise when you were growing up. And then that is where you can piece that story together. That the fact that you were forced to maintain silence, maybe you had a working parent who would work from home, and then you learned to walk on eggshells, that everything around you needed to be silent. And then that became just the way you live. So that is the way of uncovering this aspect of yourself that was not otherwise visible to you. If you know of Johari's window, it's a story that you have, that everyone, a window like, think of it as 4 squares put together as a window pane. So you have the parts of you that you know about yourself and other people know about you. There's the part about you that other people know about you, but you don't know about yourself. And there's the part about you that you don't know about yourself and other people don't know about you. And I must have gotten this wrong, because there must be another part of things where things that you know about yourself and other people don't know about. But anyway, so the point is this quadrant where there are things that you do not know about yourself. How do you uncover it? How do we get into that box? Because if other people know about it, then at least they'll tell you. But if it's something that happened in your past, they weren't there. They cannot put that connection together for you. So having this kind of conversation in your head where you try to link back these things that are triggering you to an event in your childhood would enable you to see the storyline that this need for silence is something that has been imposed on you. Then you can decide if it's something that you want to let go of, or if it's something that you want to maintain. All right. Journaling. So keeping a journal for inner work. Inner work is this work that you do on yourself from the inside. So the introspection, this thinking through, this working towards improving yourself, spending your time here with me is doing inner work, because the information here, the conversation we're having, is about ways and means that you can take steps towards changing certain elements of your life, which is good. No one is perfect, and I don't think that anyone wants to be perfect. The ambition of life is not perfection. But when there are things that affect the way we show up in a way that we don't like, if there are elements of your day-to-day experience that you do not enjoy, this is what we're looking at here. How do we move away from that? How is it possible to look at yourself and change your life experience for the better? Yes, that's what we talk about here. And journaling has for me been something. I've probably kept a journal on and off all my life, but mostly off between teenage and maybe 40, really. I took a long break from having, it was a diary. So I'm back into that track now, and let me tell you, now I have many. I have this splendid one that I got the other day that is a 5-year journal. It's really not as crazy as it sounds. It's this little book, and then each day you write something that has something that was important to you or has done to you or something like that on that day specifically. It just has a very short space for you to write. So this is just one thought, this one reflection. And I find it beautiful to think that this journal will be available for me in 5 years. Honestly, having that book, and I got it like a month ago, having that has made me realize that I'll be alive in 5 years, more likely than not. I shouldn't say more likely than not. That my present worldview of myself is that I'm likely to be alive in 5 years. And so this is telling me these are the things that the 5-year-older me will be looking back and reading. So initially I was trying to impress the 5-year-older me and trying to write very philosophical and clever kind of things. But then I've moved away from that because I want to write real things. I want to be able to look back and see, this is how you've moved, this is the progress you've made, or this is how great you were even then. So I enjoy that. It's a new book. It's a new journal that I've added. I have that. I have my the real journal, the one where I just keep my thoughts. I go in whenever I feel moved to. It's not something like I have to do every day or anything like that. No, it's whenever something crosses my mind. When I make like a breakthrough, like an inner work breakthrough, when something has happened and I've gotten an aha moment, and I want to record it, because you don't always remember. I don't always remember how these things happened, and sometimes it's good to be able to look back and see that this. It's not even the looking back and seeing. It is the processing, the energetic processing that comes to taking pen and paper and writing down what it is that you're going through. And that I find healing in and of itself. Yeah. I keep a gratitude journal. My gratitude journal, a process I started when, I want to say, maybe last year or the year before. I'm not too sure when. When I started it off, it was writing 3 things every day. Before I would go into bed, I would write 3 things every day that I was grateful for. And it's really, now it's much longer. I have I got like a real diary, you know, those diaries for the year, so that each page has its own, each day has its own page, and I just list down anything that I'm grateful for. It's a positive practice, because this helps me be able to get in touch with myself, look at my day, look at what it is that I thought was beautiful that day. And it puts me in a much more healthy mental space, because I'm able to look at the world with gratitude and realize that, yes, I do have things to be grateful for. Because it's very easy to get into the negative and be drawn into, oh, I need to do this, I haven't done that, this is not working, da 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 da. So having this gratitude journal, I find like a gift to myself, because from this I'm able to raise my level of vibration to the level of gratitude. I quite like it. Then within that same gratitude journal, I put a small section there where I started listing my self-love habits. Again, every day I write down 3 things that I did out of self-love for myself. And again, this has been really magical in pointing back the light of me, to be able to see that you did this activity. And often it's not anything very dramatic. It is very often the feeling that I have. It is very often about the food. It's often about having food that I felt was just awesome and amazing. And my ability to now realize that food is awesome and amazing is that I try to create space when I'm eating, to not have any other distractions. I eat there. I don't have the TV on or anything like that, and I just try to concentrate on the food, the taste of the food, and I find that quite a different experience from what I'm used to. I'm used to wolfing things down as I dash, because we're all busy. We have a lot of things to do. So this also helps my gratitude practice, to be able to look at and see, this is really good. This is. I notice things about it that I otherwise wouldn't have, and that then becomes a self-love activity. having fed my body with things that I thought tasted lovely or were healthy or whatever it is. So that's something else that I have. Oh, those are journals. I'm sure I have more, but then let's then move on instead of having a session that's completely on journaling. Okay, what's the next one? So IFS. IFS is an internal family system. Dr. Richard C. Schwartz is an author of the book No Bad Parts. In this book, he talks about how there are different parts within us, different parts that make us. Think of your inner critic, this voice in your head that's constantly babbling and telling you things that you've done wrong. I have that person always just telling me, why did you do that? Now look at that. So it often had a very negative stream. And I've been trying to change that tone by noticing it, first of all. Noticing this voice that is always just telling me things that you've done badly or terrible or da-da-da-da-da. So that. Then think of the voice that is always talking. That voice. So either way, there are different parts within you. And what Dr. Schwartz advises, he set up in internal family system. It's a system of self-improvement, I guess, in which he advises us to talk to our parts. He says that when you're feeling something, just go within yourself, and he offers meditations to do this. Go within your. I listened to the audiobook, and so that was really helpful, because in the audiobook he takes us through the meditations. The author himself gets into the recording and takes us through the meditation, telling us what to do. I thought that was great, and because it sounds, sometimes thinking of having like voices in your head just sounds so wrong. It sounds like multiple personality disorder, which is now called something else. I forget what it is now called, but this notion, there's a movie Split, which I quite like. But yeah, so there's this movie Split that talks about this one main character who had very different personalities within him. But with Dr. Schwartz and the IFS, what he tries to do is to remove that stigma. Because the point is that if there is something within you that's feeling a particular way, how he approaches it is to encourage us to talk to that part. Have a conversation with that part. And in having that conversation, you can get the understanding of what it is the part is trying to tell you. It could be that you're feeling stressed. Can I think of an example? The examples I have that come to me right now are a little too personal, so I don't want to get into them right now. But okay, if you're thinking about being stressed, or there's something just going wrong in your environment, then having that conversation with the part, going to a quiet space, closing your eyes, doing some breathing exercises, and then engaging that part in conversation to understand what's wrong. Why are we stressed? What is it that's disturbing us? And it's the same process as we had before on talking about the different whys. If it was stress because of a work assignment that is due and is no, that's not really, that would be the answer to the why. Maybe it's that you're stressed. Why? Because there's a work assignment that is due, that is late. Then why is that causing you the stress? Because you're going to be in trouble. What is it about being in trouble that you think that is what is it that you fear about getting in trouble? And that might be where you'll uncover that in childhood you were shouted at and you felt really threatened by your teachers because of not getting your assignments in on time. And you might find that you had been recreating that scene. By not having finished the work assignment on time, you were setting yourself up to be in a situation where you would be shouted at. So having this conversation with the part within will enable you to see this pattern. And seeing, once you see the pattern, this is part of that education that you go through. Because once you see it, oftentimes it's just seeing it that is needed. I'm oversimplifying it undoubtedly, but one of the main keys is to be able to see. Because once you see that this is what happened to you as a child, then you can feel some compassion for that child, who is another part within you, your inner child. Having some compassion for that child and saying, oh, look, offering that child a hug, yeah? And telling them that everything is going to be okay. And from that, you can be released from this pattern that had been forming. Something that really I must touch on that somewhat connects to IFS, but is overall healthy when dealing with trauma is therapy. Therapy is a tool that can speed up this process of identifying the issues that lie within you. There's a way that I do go through therapy, and there's a way that therapists are able to connect the dots between some of the things that you're saying and some of the things that you experience in a way that again, that window where there are things that you do not know about yourself. They can help guide you into that realization. And as we're saying, the realization is really a big chunk of it, because once you do realize, then the other tools, the therapist can again give you other tools on how to deal with it. One that I do not want to forget is intuition. That your intuition can guide you. Your intuition will often try to tell you things that are going on, and sometimes it might lead you to certain situations. If we go back to the example on work, it might be that you are the one who volunteered to put in place that particular assignment, and maybe that was your intuition guiding you to try and get you into noticing these things that affect you. Because these things that affect you and are known to you do show up in your life in different ways. Yeah. So if again we go back to this example of the work assignment which is late, it could be that you cannot keep a job. It might be that drastic that whenever you're given a work assignment, you are unable to do it. It tenses you up, and you often end up losing employment, and it just has you in this cycle that is truly detrimental to you. So being able to see that this is the cause, that it was that incident in childhood that has been repeating itself in your life will enable you to be free. It can free you from that pattern. So when there are things that we do not see and we do not know are affecting us, it's like living in the dark. Living in the dark, not aware that there is a light switch. Yeah. If you do not know that there is a light switch, you are not aware to move towards it and try to put on the lights. And life is manageable, but it can be, first of all, it can be so much better. And it's like living at a really small fraction of your potential of happiness and satisfaction. So that's why I found this journey that I undertook, it was quite liberating. Difficult, I won't lie. It was difficult, but it was liberating in being able to see all these little things that they're not little, all these things that can have an impact, and being aware that there's something that you can do about it. Yeah. Then the last one, the last one I'll mention, and I've touched on it before, is consuming information. So whether it's books, whether it's movies, I think of the movie Inside Out, the one that talks about emotions and feelings. It's quite a good movie. So whether it's consuming that, whether it's consuming content on social media, and doing the work, when there is some activity that's given, going on about it. If it is setting up a journal and starting a gratitude practice, then doing that. Doing the actual steps is what leads to the knowledge, what leads to the understanding. And again, a third party, whether it is through therapy, counseling, a trusted adults, that can also help in that journey. So that is what I had for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, and I hope this has been useful for you, that there was some nugget of sound wisdom that you took away. I appreciate you.